Now I know what you're thinking, this card looks like it's straight out of the 90s or early 2000s with its low profile, frankly minimalistic look. But would you believe me if I said it's actually AMD's latest graphics card, the RX 6400. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from this video's sponsor. I wish these files would transfer faster. Come on! Whoa, is that the Firecuda 510 NVMe drive with its blistering fast speeds of 3450 megabytes a second read, 3200 megabytes a second write, and capacities of up to 2 terabyte? I can have these files transferred in no time. And if I'm looking for the ultimate performance, I could even get the 4th generation Firecuda 520. I better check the link in the description to find out more details. Now we're all aware that both AMD and NVIDIA are coming out with new cards soon. I say soon because it's all still up in the air. And while we've heard a lot from Team Green, AMD and their RDNA 3 based GPUs have been fairly quiet on the old rumour mill. So from that we can deduce one of three things. They are either too far away that there isn't much info flying around yet, or AMD haven't been very good at keeping things buttoned up, or they suck and no one cares. Whatever the reason, it doesn't stop brands like AMD having one last hurrah and releasing another product while the series is still somewhat relevant. And it's not always the high end that gets something new. Sure, we did see the 6950 XT along with the 6750 XT and 6650 XT being refreshed, but the low end of the market had been left a little dry, shall we say. Obviously we had the 6500 XT 4GB card that came out last year, which I think my feelings were made very, very clear at the time that it was just lackluster and was too expensive for what was given for your money. Maybe at the time that was due to the GPU crisis and prices being inflated, and now maybe things have got better. Well, you'd think so, but sadly not. While I still believe the 6500 XT is a bad card for the money, the 6400 doesn't exactly have a huge amount of disparity, and in the UK can be had for the same price of £160. While in the US, that disparity does grow ever so slightly with a difference of $30 between both the 6400 and the 6500 XT. But the low profile one actually costs more than that, so that disparity kind of disappears. But the question we do have to ask is not just how the 6400 performs, but how it performs relative to the 6500 XT. Because on paper, short of some clock speeds on both the CPU core and the memory, as well as some cut down shading units, texture units, and ray accelerators, which on low end cards is actually quite laughable, they are very similar cards. To see just how similar, we put them onto our test bench, comprising of a Ryzen 9 5900X on an Asus Crosshair 8 Dark Hero motherboard. We use 32GB of Corsair Dominator Platinum RGB 3600MHz dual channel memory, and due to the type of cards and not all of them supporting it, we disabled resizable bar and smart access memory to make things as fair as possible. Also, due to the nature of the cards we tested, we ran all 18 of our tests at 1080p on the medium preset or medium settings when presets weren't available, though there was one exception to that rule, and I'll explain when we get to it. As always, due to the amount of titles we test, we'll be showing as much data as we can here, but we'll be posting a load more over on our Patreon, where you get access to a load of other benefits too, including access to our special area on Discord, exclusive bi-weekly game nights, and behind the scenes content. The link for all that is down below. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the benchmarks. Our first title is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Getting 50 FPS on average, the 6400 doesn't do all too badly with all things considered. To very little surprise, it was the worst performer of all our AMD cards, but only one NVIDIA card was able to get a higher average FPS than the 6400. The 1060 6GB saw an average that was 10 frames higher than the 6400, whilst all other Team Green cards ended up below. We saw a pretty big jump in performance when we moved on to our next game, as Call of Duty Warzone proved to be much less demanding than Assassin's Creed, and as a result we ended up with a jump in performance all the way up to 73 frames per second, with 1% lows bordering 60, which proved to be perfectly playable. What's even better than 73? 369, which is the average FPS that we saw in CSGO. It fell a little behind the RX 570 and pretty far behind the 1063 gig, which almost reached 400 FPS. But despite this, it still managed to stay above the 360 FPS mark. And let's be honest, the chances that you have a monitor that can take advantage of this are pretty slim, but it's still nice to see. The chances of you having a monitor that can take full advantage of the performance we saw from Cyberpunk 2077, however, is much higher, since we saw an average of a mere 34 frames per second, with 1% lows below 30. Whilst this is technically playable, it isn't exactly ideal, and it's worth mentioning that there are areas in Night City that actually have worse performance than where we tested, so this is pretty much the best case scenario. Dying Light 2 had very similar performance to Cyberpunk, with the average FPS ending up only 1 frame higher than what we saw in Cyberpunk. But interestingly, it felt less smooth to play. Compared to other cards, the 6400's performance was kind of middling. Compared to the older 5600 XT, the 6400 did pretty poorly, but compared to the 1630 and 1050 Ti, it did fairly well. Our next title, Far Cry 6, gave us significantly more performance at these settings, with the 6400 being just 1 frame away from getting an average of 60 FPS. Meaning this card will give you perfectly playable performance with only minor stuttering down to the 1% low point of 49 FPS. But with that said, even the 6500 XT that I have already deemed as, well, terrible, managed to stay above 60 on the lows and came in with an average of 74, which means that you'll be getting pretty decent performance all of the time, but still nowhere near as good as the second-hand 5600 XT, which had averages over 100 FPS. The performance only got higher as we moved on to Gears 5. The performance here is constantly above 60 FPS in both the averages and the 1% lows, but again is overshadowed by the older 5600 XT, and even the 6500 managed to almost reach 100 FPS on average, which is a feat that the 5500 XT also achieved. Okay, now we move on to the exception to the medium settings rule, GTA 5, and why we changed the settings for this game was that at medium settings, we were reaching the game's hard FPS cap of 188 FPS on almost all of the cards. So we bumped the setting up to the maximum just for this game so we can get a more realistic look at the performance differences between all of the cards. With that being said, the 6400 managed to pull an average of 82 FPS, which for many people is going to be more than acceptable. But comparatively, this is still pretty poor given that older and cheaper cards are managing to get much better performance out of a game that is now starting to, well, get on a little bit. From the old to the new and Halo Infinite, the 6400 stayed above 30 FPS the whole time and averaged at 44. But once again, we need to acknowledge that older cards managed to get much higher frame rates. Both 1060s and the 5500 and 5600 XT all performed better than the newer RX 6400, each of which were averaging near or above 60 FPS, with the 5600 XT getting close to 100 FPS. Moving on to Horizon Zero Dawn, if we isolate the performance of the 6400, it seems pretty damn good. But with the harsh reality that's brought to light by comparison, we can see that this isn't really that great. Yes, you'd be able to play this and have a good experience, but when the performance of older cards is so much higher, you start to wonder why you'd get this newer card. Performance wasn't that far off most of the other cards, but again, I have to mention the 5600 XT, which just tramples on all the other cards with an average FPS of 127. In our second to last game, Resident Evil Village, I'm starting to get bored by saying the same thing over and over. The 5600 massively outperforms the rest of the crowd, but the 6400 actually held its ground here in a bizarre turn of events. As the 6400 is on the higher side of performance at 110 frames per second on average, it's not too shabby. This is more than double the frankly embarrassing performance we see from the 1630, 1063 gig and the 1050 Ti. In fact, all of NVIDIA's cards were outperformed by the 6400, including the 1066 gig that was previously seeing the higher side of performance. Our last game is Rainbow Six Siege, and what we found here is that it's hard to get bad performance out of any card. When comparing the cards, we can see how they stack up against each other, but in general, not a single card performed badly at all. The 6400 managed to get an average FPS just below 160, which is nothing to complain about really, but it is still put to shame by the older cards like the 5500 XT that reached an average of 207 FPS. Across the grand total of 18 games, we found the average FPS for the 6400 is okay. It does alright compared to other cards, but with an average of 91 FPS, it's far from the best performer we had. If you've been paying attention, then it will come as no surprise that the 5600 XT was the top dog in terms of performance here. Now, while performance is the bulk of the story, looking at the cost per frame unveils some interesting finds. In the UK, the RX 6400 is at the worst end of the scale, with the 6500 XT actually showing ever so slightly better value for money overall. If you had that kind of money to spend, then the likes of the RX 5600 XT is still the better buy at £1.13 per frame, with the 6400 showing the worst value from Team Red, only being beaten by the somewhat old 1650 and the frankly abysmal GTX 1630 from NVIDIA. It's very much the same story when looking at the US, with the gap between the 6400 and 6500 XT drawing closer, and again showing a better proposition for the likes of a used 5600 XT. With these current generation cards due to be replaced, if you don't mind a second-hand card, then the used market clearly shows some great value for money prospects. Now, I want to talk about the 6400 as a GPU, but as per usual, I want to give some screen time to this particular card that we have here, which is the Powercolor low profile version, of which I've always been quite a big fan of low profile cards. They offer up something that a lot of manufacturers just kind of seem to miss. I mean, not everyone has a huge system, especially if they're on a budget, where smaller, cheaper cases are prime picking for them. And a low profile card can actually offer, I guess, the versatility that they actually need. The issue really though, is that this card from Powercolor is about £30 more expensive, or about the same in dollars actually. Though XFX actually do have a low profile one for about $150 right now. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't know what's going on with Powercolor, and if this, I don't know, card was more interesting, shall we say, then maybe I'd look at getting some other models in and doing a bit of a roundup comparing all the low profile ones and then all the normal ones. But I don't know if it's just me, I just don't think they're that exciting. But maybe I'm wrong, so let me know in the comment section if maybe that's something you really want to see. Because testing them, I'll be honest, isn't great fun either, getting very similar results across the complete sort of lower end of the spectrum. Now, in terms of the design, again, nothing really to write home about. I mean, it's small and low profile as you'd expect, and is powered solely by the PCI Express connector due to its low 53 watt TDP, giving us a total system power draw of 136.1 watts. So again, anyone wanting something for a small PC or a home theatre PC, or just something to play, let's say, basic games at low resolutions on, this may be an option to a certain degree. Now, being a low profile card does have its drawbacks. Even though this is a low end card, at 89 degrees it was the worst card we've tested, and the acoustics weren't much better at 46.1 decibels due to its very small single fan. So while other models of the 6400 would likely fare better, there's definitely a trade-off in terms of acoustics and thermals, and the lack of performance too. So the 6400 as a whole, while it's not impressed me in the slightest and could be argued it's actually a worse proposition than the 6500 XT, which I had already hated on almost a year ago, it wasn't actually the worst card we've tested against. That title is most definitely left up to this thing, the GTX 1630, which can be had for around the same amount of money, if not actually a little bit more. Why both AMD and NVIDIA release these cards really is beyond me, other than a last minute kind of cash grab where maybe they were hoping to hit sheer volume numbers. But then if that was the case, I'd like to think we'd actually see more of them available in the market, though maybe even the disties and retailers agree with me and think that both of them, in their entirety, suck. The honest truth, and our test showed it clearly, that the best option when you're looking around this kind of price point, which let's say 160 to 200 pounds or dollars, if it doesn't bother you, I think the best option really is to buy a second-hand 5600 XT instead. Yes, you technically, when looking at the cost per frame data, actually find the GTX 1060 cards and the RX 570 with a better value, but I feel the 5600 XT was close enough without going too old. I mean, technically, it's only a single generation old at this point, whereas an RX 570 is a refresh of a refresh, so you could argue is maybe 3 to 4 generations old. So make of that what you will. I think it's safe to say that on the low end you have options, and hopefully this video has given you an idea of what to get, and more importantly, what not to get. And let me know, Do you actually agree with me? Am I onto something here? I know it's a tough one because when we are actually looking at the low end, everyone wants something better. It's just their wallets maybe just don't allow it. And speaking of something better, if you appreciate the huge work that we put into these videos and want to support us, you can over on Patreon, where we'll be posting up all the data for all the games featured in this video and much, much more. The link, as always, is down below. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, a like and a sub to the channel would be extremely high end, because they're low end. Get it? Either way, I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.